Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I'm going to start with the Minister of Justice because I see that he's becoming uncomfortable sitting there for the whole day and I'm scared he falls asleep. So I'm going to make an effort to wake him up a little. So, Minister, you're the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. It's a big job, very big portfolio. It doesn't matter that you have two deputies, each one helping on a different thing. You're responsible overarchingly for justice and correctional services in this country. Do you agree?
Yeah.
And it's your job, Minister, to ensure the safety of South African citizens. It's your job as the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, in conjunction with the rest of the criminal justice cluster, to ensure the safety of South African citizens. Make sure that they're safe in their homes every night. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then I presume that you'll agree with me that in this particular instance you have failed.
Yes, that's why we apologize to the nation.
Good.
Because we don't, we take responsibility in terms of the act, the overall responsibility as the custodian of prisons in this country is the Department of Correctional Services. Yes.
Well, to your credit then, you take responsibility, and it's admirable quality. But you're a lawyer yourself. You've been a practicing attorney. You understand about culpability, and you understand about culpability of the state. And you understand about your failure to protect both the public at large and, more importantly, the victims of this particular offender. And when you knew, let's say at the best for you, when you knew in October of 2022 that Bester had escaped, or that it was very likely that he'd escaped, what steps did you take, to ensure that the victims of Bester were informed, adequately supported, adequately protected? What steps did you take?
Yeah, Honorable Breitenbach, as I've said, after the telephone call with the inspecting judge, I immediately called the National Commissioner to, Yeah, because I was shocked to the core, and I did mention it to the judge that this is something else. But yeah, I will definitely engage the National Commissioner, which I did, to prioritize this matter and to deal with the issues of the investigations as urgently as possible. And that's where he told me that already there is an investigation that is ongoing, which I asked why I was not aware of this thing. He says, no, it's because they did not have enough information to bring. They were still at the preliminary stages of the investigation, the investigators.
So, Minister, forgive me, but that's just not good enough. You phone up the commissioner, he tells you that there is an investigation. They haven't bothered to inform you because they don't have enough information. The information that they have is that there was a dead body in a cell in Bloemfontein that doesn't belong to Thabo Bester. And Thabo Bester is no longer in that prison. He's a serial rapist, he's a murderer, he's convicted. He has victims out there. My question to you was, what steps did you take, to inform his victims, to protect his victims, to support his victims?
Yeah, Honorable Breitenbach, it's not correct. In terms of the timelines, at the time when I spoke to the National Commissioner, he told me that the investigation is still at the preliminary stage. And the preliminary stage, when I asked, what do you mean? What is it that you have? I mean, he said, no, we still need to get the various reports that relates to confirming whether indeed this guy has escaped. Because one, G4S is still insisting that the body that died there is the one of, or that they found, is the one of yeah, the person who died there is this Mr. Thabo Bester. So at at the time, that is what was happening. And secondly, as you will be aware, Honorable Bradenbach, it then becomes the responsibility of the corrections unit in the departments to inform the victims and deal with them, because, I mean, it's all over the country. And I did engage the National Commissioner. I think the National Commissioner can take it from there, because my responsibility deals with oversight and also to check whether what should be done is indeed done.
I differ from you, Minister. I think your responsibility entails everything. It's a big job. You've accepted that responsibility, and you can't pass the buck, which is what you're trying to do.
It is not in terms of the Correctional Services Act.
I'm not talking about I'm not talking about the Act.
The responsibility, and
Sorry,
you
Minister.
will always...
Sorry, Minister. I think let's give each other space we can't talk past each other.
My apology.
I'm not talking about the Act, Minister, and you know it. I'm talking about your responsibility as a lawyer, as a human being, as the Minister of Justice. Don't tell me that that is circumscribed by the Act. That's a poor show, it's an indictment on you. And I honestly thought you were better than that. You have a deputy sitting next to you. Did you phone him up and say, this thing has happened? Do you know about it? What are you doing about it? And will you please sort out the victims, some sort of initiative to protect them, to support them? Did you do that?
Honorable Bradenbach, you are the proponents of saying we need to give professionals the independence to do their job. While we follow up, while we look at them, while they give us reports, but you cannot also be the one who also becomes the National Commissioner, the accounting authority, and the accounting officer. With regards to the Deputy Minister, as I've said, that when I got this thing, the first call I made was to the National Commissioner, for example. And at that time, I did not even inform my staff, for example, that I had this discussion with the inspecting judge, and this is his view, that there could be this thing. Because I thought that this is very sensitive. I must limit it as far as possible. And the National Commissioner, when he has got preliminary information and reports, he will be able to inform the Deputy Minister.
So, Minister, I would ask you to keep your answers a little shorter than that, because you're taking up my 15 minutes. All I can say to you is that, in my view, you fell short of the mark. My other questions are to DCS. I can just say to you, Minister, that being shocked seems to sort of run in the cabinet circles. The President's always shocked that we don't have electricity. You're shocked. You were shocked that the Guptas weren't extradited. Shock seems to be a thing. Maybe consult someone about that.
I suspect you are also shocked, Honorable Bradenbach.
You know, unfortunately, unfortunately, I'm not.
Everyone.
No, unfortunately, I'm not.
Members, please.
My next question is to DCS. When you were informed of this occurrence at Mangaung, at what time did the first DCS person arrive at that scene?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'm going to ask one of the investigators to answer that question.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The incident happened around 4 o'clock in the morning, and according to the G4S officials, they immediately phoned the controller, and because controller is not far from Mangaung, it took them around 15 minutes, and they were already there. It was around 4:30 in the morning.
First DCS person arrived there at 4:30 in the morning. Who was that person?
It was the controller and the deputy controller.
And they're not here today.
Yes, they are not here, Honorable Member.
Okay. And did they give you a report of what they found there? What was the state of the cell?
They did give the statements to the investigators.
What was the state of the cell?
The investigator will proceed to give the details.
Okay, but please a
Honorable
concise answer.
Bredenbach, you are left with 4 minutes. I will credit you with 1 minute, then I left with 5 minutes.
Thank you. What was the state of the cell? But please be concise.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. When they arrived at the scene, they found a lot of smoke in that cell, and they found a body lying down in that cell, facing down. That's what they told us, Honorable.
Did they take photographs?
No, they did
Did
not.
anyone take photographs?
Only SAPS Forensic did take the photographs
When did they take those photographs?
on the day of the incident.
When on the day of the incident? Early morning, late afternoon, middle of the night?
Around past 6 o'clock when they arrived at the scene,
In the morning.
in the morning of the incident.
And those photographs should be available.
That's correct.
Have you seen them?
We have seen them last week, Honorable.
What was the state of the cell? Was it damaged? Was there extensive fire damage in the cell?
At the time, if I recall well, the cell was like repaired, cleaned.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
I just wanted to assist. I think the investigator is answering a question about the state of the cell that he was exposed to last week. He's not answering the question on what was the state of the cell when the body was still there in the morning of the, in the morning of the incident, which is the 3rd of May, 2022. And he's indicating that he only got access to the photos last week, and that is as a result of the takeover we did. This is the information that we could not get access to when they were doing the investigation. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, National Commissioner. Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister and Commissioner. Minister, Groundup sent you a very urgent response on the request for response on the 17th of March. And obviously you don't receive all the emails, but on the 17th of March, questions relating to the whole incident following the exposés, and your spokesperson, Crispin P., responded that he did not see an urgency in responding, given that they gave a 3-hour deadline, which is very short. But the editor then, Mr. Geffen, responded to him explaining the matter was urgent, and P. responded that the report was not yet complete and he could not comment. Are you aware of that email? Was it brought to your attention? That's the 17th of March this year.
No, I'm not, but what I'm aware of is that there was, the spokesperson did inform me that there is a media query on the matter, and that they want our response immediately at that time. So that's what I'm aware of. But in terms of the content of the email,
I understand. Minister, but was your media department monitoring all the media around this issue that had been building up, starting with November, which was the explosive report from Groundup, to building up towards this? And obviously, it required a response from your office or not?
yes, I think they were, because from time to time they will raise the issue with me, and I will always raise it with the National Commissioner to say these questions are perpetually coming. But anyway, remember, the inspecting judge has raised this issue. So we need to take it very serious because it has been raised by the inspecting judge. What is happening with the investigations and so forth? So that is, it's some of those questions where the National Commissioner ended up telling me of the feedback he got from SAPS that they're at the sensitive stages of the investigation, and we must not do anything that could jeopardize the investigations and the issues of multiple bodies and various permutations that they are dealing with.
Thank you, Minister. So let's, Commissioner, let's then, the responses to media, there's a brief mention about that, but it omits more than it says. And I'd like to take you to the ENCA interview with your spokesperson, Mr. Nkumala, did I get it right? But he said, we stand by our statement, and I don't understand whether there was a statement, but we stand by a statement of 3 May. Now that might be incorrect. 3 May, could it be another date? I'm not sure, but we stand by a statement of 3 May 2022. As you are seated now, that is now on the 18th of March, Correctional Services doesn't have the outcome of the police report. Now I understand you might not have that then, but he says he doesn't have the autopsy report. Now that's a blatant lie, because by that stage, according to the JICS, on the 10th of August, JICS says SAPS gave the report to it and the DCS. On the 28th of October, on your own report, now that you've just presented to us, the copy of the post-mortem and the DNA response was received from the police. On the 16th of January, a case is opened of an escape, and a week before this, JICS advises DCS that the inmate Bester is alive, well, and dangerous. Can you explain why your spokesperson would lie on national TV to say that the department does not have the autopsy report on the 18th of March 2023?
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. The communications section of the department receives the final report of the investigations, any investigations that we conduct, and on the basis of that, they then answer to media queries or make statements. The report that the spokesperson was referring to is an executive report that we received officially as reported through G4S of unnatural death. At that stage, when he was answering that media query, he did not have in his possession a final concluded report of the investigation from the department.
Okay, Commissioner, I'll give you that latitude that it's a final report, but the point that we've been trying to make, and this is where we as public representatives feel the outrage about the lack of communication with the public. And I've raised this issue ad nauseum about the policies of warning the victims. Here we have a person, the evidence is suggesting, as way back even from the previous June, way back even from May last year, when a police investigator says there's suspicions around this whole incident. And I think that is our concern, and that is our outrage, and that's the public's concern, that at no stage were the public advised. And I appreciate on the one hand, as Minister Chele advised, that you don't want to warn him, but I think in this case, the public interest outweighs the interest of trying to trace that person then, to warn the public that here is a dangerous person, a convicted murderer, a convicted rapist, who is out, firstly at least, to warn the victims. Now, Minister, this is not addressed to you, but if I heard you correctly, you said there is a policy or something, and please, I don't want to quote you incorrectly, but Commissioner, how do you warn the rape victims? Do you warn rape victims in a situation like this where there is an escape You do warn them when there's a parole coming up, I understand that, but in a situation like this, is there a policy and was it done?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. In terms of the procedure, when there is an escape, which means that when we have conclusive evidence and information that we have an escape, we do warn members of the public. In this instance, there was a case of unnatural death that was reported, or we received a report on unnatural death. At that stage, we had not received a final report that would make us conclude that we have an escape. After receiving that report, it didn't take us more than 3 days to issue out a statement to warn the public, and we were the first government institution to do that, because at that stage, we had received a final report, we had interacted with the investigators, we had checked the evidence in the report, and conclusively, at that point, we went out to the public to say we have an escape. And I must also indicate that actually at that point, it was still risky for the department and the National Commissioner to do that, because G4S still maintained that the body that burned on that morning was the body of Thabo Bester.
Sorry, National Commissioner, what date was that you issued that warning? Roundabout. I don't have to have a...
We received the report on the 22nd of March,
Okay,
2023.
So I understand that. So
Yes.
that is following the massive media coverage of ground up, following your report to the police on the 16th of January of an escape. You reported to the police. So from January, at best, and in October already you've got these reports, but from January your officers report an escape, and you wait until March to issue a warning. Now I find that unacceptable, given the issues around this whole case. But I'll leave it at that. What I do want to ask you is the glaring omission is that on the 24th of March, only on the 24th of March, DCS activates the DCT team to track him down. Why only on the 24th of March? When you have all this evidence, when on the 16th of January, you already had, and go back to the 28th of October when there was huge suspicion and the reports that you then got already. Why do you wait until the 24th of March to activate the track and trace team to try to arrest him? And we see it was literally 2 weeks later and he was arrested. Toof, like that. He was arrested. And thankfully, as the Honorable Breitenbach said earlier, thankfully he did not commit another offense in this time. Thankfully. But it's to no benefit of the department because you had the information. Commissioner, on the 16th of January, an escape is reported. Why didn't you, on that date, have the activation team to track and trace him on that date? And why did you wait to the 24th of March?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. We have presented to the committee through the report that we have submitted that, yes, the case was opened on the 16th of January. In the same presentation, we are indicating that the National Commissioner became aware that the case was opened in the meeting that was convened on the 23rd of March, when the final investigation report was discussed with the investigators, the Regional Management Committee, and colleagues from management in the department. The media statement was issued out, as one has indicated, on the 25th. The tracking team was appointed in the morning of the 24th of March. We finished the meeting after 12 o'clock. Immediately after finishing the meeting, confirming the facts, I then issued out an instruction to put together the tracking and tracing team, which started its work at that
Commissioner,
time.
thank you very much. But may I suggest, with the greatest respect, that it's not necessary to wait till a final report before you have the track and trace team. I'm sure that can't be your policy. Surely when you have an escape, you should activate the track and trace team immediately and that you don't have to wait for a final report, even if there is some doubts. Is that not surely your policy?
Chairperson.
5 minutes left.
Chairperson.
Minister, I think the Minister wants to comment, or someone.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to come on this point because I also asked the National Commissioner the same question when these suspicions were becoming loud around November or so. But why don't you just go and arrest and test this alleged person who is outside? And he said to me, look, there are a number of issues involved. One is that we don't know whether it's him or not. The first thing the police are going to ask me is whether do we have a warrant of arrest and so forth. So the first thing that needs to happen is that an escape must be declared first. Then the track and tracing team can come into the space. So it's not like a normal, straightforward escape. Where it is known this prisoner just leaves, then you declare immediately the track and tracing team. So there were still some complexities, and the National Commissioner can answer for himself. So I'm just bringing this to bear that those were some of the engagements we had, even ourselves behind the scene. But why don't we just go and fetch this one?
I appreciate that, thanks, and I've only got 2 minutes, but I do want to just make the point that we've got to see this against the background of a lot of media coverage at this stage already. And on the 16th of January, Minister, even the 16th of January, a case of escape is reported. On that day, the track and trace team should have been activated, because there you report a case, you've got enough evidence, and you report a case. But I'll leave it at that. Commissioner, just the last issue. I raised this, and I just want an explanation from someone. On the 17th of March, someone in the department issued a statement about so-called leaks from unidentified sources and suggested that information supplied by these unauthorized sources were putting undue pressure on the department to confirm or deny these reports. Now, you were getting continuous comments and from ground up. Said, please confirm this, please answer this. No response, no response, no response. And then almost a chilling media report is saying, please stop putting pressure on us. In other words, and I appreciate there might be a lot of invalid things that are coming your way, but here is ground up sending you information, sending you requests, and you almost say, stop putting pressure on us. Is this not a form of a contempt almost for whistleblowers, or are you not taking them seriously? And should you not consider going forward, taking greater note of what these investigative journalists are saying and the information? I put the same information to SAPS, and they said, yes, we can make use of that. That would be my last question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. No, from our side, let me just concede that we do not take that as contempt, number one. Number two, the information that that was received by us is information that was also treated by the investigators. The statement that was issued out at that point was to indicate to the public that we should work together, because obviously there were those reports that we were receiving that were really misleading. I can give one example, for instance, with the offenders, Honorable Chairperson, who would report instances of having information about by that time, the escape. Some of them actually, to this date, they are still indicating that they were able to see someone walking up and down Broadway. But at that time of the escape, offenders were locked up. The structure of the cell door is that there's a space where you can be able to peep through with bars, but there's a flip that seals the cell. And that flip that seals the cell can only be lifted up from outside, not from inside. If you are to lift it from inside, it will be difficult for you to even make the person who's walking up and down the corridor. Now, this is the type of information that you have to sift through when you do an investigation or when you get alerts, and you follow that up. Where it's useful, you utilize it. Where it's not useful, of course, you just focus on the work at hand.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Engelbrecht.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. National Commissioner, I just want to clear something up that came to the fore during this morning's question and answer session with the inspecting judge relating to the regional commissioner. The DCS controllers that is stationed at the G4S Mangaung facility, do they report to the regional commissioner or not?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The controllers report to the Director Contract Management at head office.
So would that then mean that the PPP facilities do not fall under the regional and provincial DCS structures, but falls directly under national head office?
Yes, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you for that. When it comes to the department invoking section 112 about an event that occurred a year ago, I'm rather concerned. Reason being is that I hope that you are sure that the state of affairs at that facility prior to you invoking section 112 was of such a nature that the invoking of this section would be upheld by a court of law. Because after our conversations with G4S, I am utterly convinced that they will take the department to court and they will question the invoking of section 112. And I'm not sure if historic events can be used as a reason to invoke 112 now, not knowing if those events were still prevalent just prior to the department invoking section 112.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Are they not part of what they've sought legal opinion on?
Yeah, no, I don't think you have to answer. I'm just stating a concern, and I hope that these things are in order. Then,
I think the concern would be noted.
Then to end off, and I'm not going to take 15 minutes, Mr. Chair. We've heard from everyone involved now, and so we can come to a conclusion in our own minds. And mine is the following. The inspecting judge shared public information with Ground Up. Ground Up published the story. Because of the publication, the public's interest became focused on this issue after a while. And I'm convinced that because of the public outcry, we are sitting here today. So I think it can be derived that had the inspecting judge not shared the information with Ground Up, we would have been none the wiser, and Bester would, in all probability, still be roaming around freely. From my perspective, the inspecting judge shared this information with the journalist because after numerous attempts by him to get the minister and DCS to act has failed, and this is evident in the timeline where we see when things were done. The inspecting judge during his questions and answer session was understandably very kind in respect of the minister. I mean, he has to work with the minister. However, despite his kindness, he felt compelled to share the information with the journalists, with the hope of eliciting a public outcry to get the minister and the department to do their job. And I think us sitting here right now is a testament to the inspecting judge being 100% correct in his assumptions. So, having said that, and you can comment on it or you don't have to if you don't want to, but I want to know from Minister Lamola, seeing all of these failures, and if we talk about the concept of accountability, Mr. Lamola, will you resign as a minister because of this debacle? Thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, maybe firstly, on the 112 intervention, I hope that the Honorable Ongobrak is not suggesting that with all that is in front of us, everything is under control at the Mangaung Correctional Facility. Secondly, on your question whether I will resign or not, no, I'm not going to resign because I did what I was supposed to do. And you will have heard even the judge that as he informed me, he was not also informing me with certainty that Mr. Bester has escaped. He said there's a suspicion that is being investigated by the SAPS, by DCS, including the inspecting judge, which I immediately called the National Commissioner to say, National Commissioner, I was on a call with the inspecting judge. These are the issues he's saying. This thing does sound unbelievable, but if it comes from a judge, you need to act on it, which is what I was supposed to do, and I've done it. Unfortunately, I cannot instruct the National Commissioner to go and arrest a person. Neither can I instruct the SAPS to go and arrest a person. Because, as you may be aware, Mr. Engelbrecht, is the jurisdiction of the investigating officer to decide when and how to effect an arrest. But I did inform the National Commissioner of my discussion with the judge, which I told him that the judge did say this thing sounds unbelievable, but he is a judge. He believes that this suspicion needs to be followed up. So let's follow it up. And from time to time, I will definitely call the National Commission, even when we receive the questions, sometimes from the media and so forth, to say, how far is the investigations? And that is when I answered, when Honorable Swart was asking that at some stage he told me that this thing has become broader than just them investigating an escape. There's multiple bodies. In fact, the police believe this could be something bigger than what they see. So we should not do anything that could jeopardize the investigation. Hence, I confined my discussion between myself and the National Commissioner on this issue because of the nature and the sensitivity that was becoming apparent to me. But I understood the agency and the need to put pressure on him. And I do think that when you look at the timelines from when the National Commissioner was doing follow-ups and so forth, it is also after many times I prompted him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
Just one thing. The Minister referred to Section 112. I just want to make it clear. I am not saying that the things at Mangaung G4S is by any means wonderful right now. I raised a concern after studying the contract between DCS and And I'm not a lawyer, but I have an opinion that according to what I read there, and I might be wrong and I hope I'm wrong, that there might be a financial risk for the department, which is something that we do not want. I just want to make that clear.
No, thank you very much. I think the department will act legally and rationally. Thank you very much, Honorable Horn.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe I must start off while the Minister is on the floor to touch base with the Minister on the statement he made around his responsibility in respect of DCS being primarily oversight in nature. It's of course different to our oversight, Minister. I hope you would agree. And if we for a moment accept that answer, also in light of the fact that you said we have failed and we take responsibility, what then, in hindsight, should you have done differently?
Firstly, you will have heard, Honorable One, that I'm clear that we must apologize for the fact that Mr. Bester escaped from our facility, which is a facility operated by G4S. And I said, while it is operated by G4S on behalf of the South African government, the ultimate responsibility lies with the South African government. It lies with the Department of Correctional Service. The South African public does not know G4S. They know us. So it's us who must apologize to the South African public for this escape. And that is the responsibility I'm taking.
Okay, let's stay with your oversight responsibilities. We only, it's now well known, we only have 2 public-private partnerships in respect of correctional facilities in this country. So as the Minister, what have you done to ensure that the oversight, the monitoring, the evaluation in terms of the agreement in respect of Mangaung Correctional Centre is properly done?
Is to request reports during the management, the ministerial management meetings, and also to request them to tell us what is the process that DCS has started in anticipation of the takeover of the facility in 2026. And as we speak now, there is a team from DCS working on the process of the takeover. Despite this process that we're dealing with in terms of the legal opinion that was seeking in relation to the current situation, whether we should terminate or not, and whether we'll have the capacity to take over or not at this stage. So, since my arrival, I've been very clear that we are not going to extend this 25-year contract. So the department must start to prepare the processes of takeover, and there's been many activities of monitoring. I know that the Deputy Minister has also visited these centers, including the Quintamas in Timule and so forth, in that process of monitoring and also enhancing the process of the takeover.
Okay, so have you considered the risks involved in public-private partnerships in general, long-term public-private partnerships, the risk involved, which is accepted globally, that towards the end of a longer-term contract, evaluation and oversight is neglected? And linked to that, your announcement, which I'm not saying you were not entitled to make, but your announcement already that come 2026 we're taking over there. What have you done to mitigate those risks?
Yeah, as I've said, Honorable Horn, there are teams as we speak now from DCS dealing with all those issues, the risk, the cost, the number of employees there, how many will we need, how many are retiring, how many are taking over, what could be the risk, what type of profile and all that. So they are dealing with everything related to that process, including the risks.
And what have they found?
One is that what you have seen there as a presentation. For example, the private-public partnerships, they use a different system in terms of the grading of the offenders. They start with the A+, which is a higher kind of privilege, and then they work them down. It's a philosophy that they are running. While DCS is opposite. You start from 0, where you have got nothing, until you gain your points of good behavior and so forth, which we have agreed that that should be harmonized. It must be in line with the DCS process. And also the discrepancies with regard to the salaries, that it looks like they are paid more a bit, which the department might not really afford, particularly the officials. And it looks like there's about 30% or so in Mangaung that is soon going to retirement. So there's a number of things that they did find, which I think will be helpful as we move forward.
Okay. So talking about those officials, one of the things that of course is now on the table is that come 2026 they have an uncertain future. Now your agreement with Group 4 Security say they may not make use of any custody officials who are not certified, and you can even, some instances, revisited the certification. A lot has been said about the lack of G4S to do lifestyle audits, and according to your own report, their own intelligence operations were weak. Have your team considered recertifying the Group 4 security officials there as part of a risk management in the run-up to 2026?
I think the NC can answer that one. Or the controller and so forth.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The HR processes with regards to take over includes lifestyle audits. We have already indicated that with Mangaung, with the takeover, at the moment, that's one of the things that we're going to do. And then we have already identified that there's a different grading system in terms of salaries, as the Minister has indicated, and we've also identified that there's a need for reskilling or retraining, especially of correctional officials, because the training that the Mangaung correctional officials go through in terms of intensity and time is less than the training that we take our own correctional officials through. So those are the details that the task teams have been tasked to work on. There's an action plan that we did present to the portfolio committee, and we are ready upon being invited to the portfolio committee to give more progress with regards to the details that we have uncovered. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you. Chair, my next question is around the periodic reviews which the contract makes provision for. Am I correct to understand that at first it was agreed that those would happen quarterly, but of late that has not happened quarterly?
Yeah, yes, you are correct. Through you, Honorable Chairperson. Yes, you are correct, Honorable Member.
Yeah, and now with the benefit of hindsight, would you agree that quite possibly keeping up the quarterly reviews could maybe have assisted to prevent what happened?
Yes, I agree. Through you, Honorable Chairperson. Yes, I agree, Honorable Member. Let me indicate that the quarterly reviews are done by the supervisory committee, but through the reporting system of the department, we also get the region to include the information from G4S in the quarterly reports that we consider as management of the department on the performance of the correctional system. Hence, when we also meet on a weekly basis to look at the performance of correctional facilities through the National Operations Committee, we also include the information and reports from Mangaung Correctional Facility. Actually, the latest report that was done on the infrastructure and the operations of the fire system at Mangaung was done in the last 6 months, which is what we also provided to the contractor.
Okay. I just want National Commissioner to touch base with you regarding your response to the question by the Honorable Engelbrecht, because I have it that the job description of the controllers entail a first line of reporting to the Deputy Regional Commissioner in question before the, I want to say, parallel and separate reporting line to the National Director Contract Management. You answered that the only reporting line is to the Contract Management Director. Are you quite sure about your information?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Yes, I am sure. I have just indicated, Honorable Chairperson, that with regards to operational information that we aggregate for the correctional system, the region collects that information and submits to management. But when it comes to the performance, the work of the controllers, when it comes to the tasking of the controllers, reporting in terms of their performance contracts and accountability, they are directly accountable to the Director Contract Management. That's why even in terms of the investigation that they instituted after appointing the investigators, that investigation report went from the controllers to the Director Contract Management. There is no line between that intercepted that investigation. It is just a line that provides information. It's not a line that provides management and control.
Thank you. Then in respect of the complaints or violation notices, we see in the report that you report for the most recent period. Would you be able to furnish us with a longer period, maybe 5 years, so that we can see the trend of violation notices, the numbers, the type of violation notices? I can't insist on it now or the detail of it now, but would you be able to do that, please?
4 minutes.
Thank you, Chair.
We will be able to do that through you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you. Chair, then, with your permission, I want to move back to the Minister. Minister, as part of your oversight functions, in respect of the previous National Commissioner, what was your oversight of his exit activities at the time? So the decisions he took during let's say the last few weeks or months of his tenure, after having, of course, being informed that his contract would not be extended.
It was the same as I arrived.
So what would that be?
The normal oversight reports, what is happening, the quarterly reports that are necessary, the management committee meetings, and everything that is supposed to be done.
So wouldn't you agree that in respect of a Director General, which in essence the National Commissioner is, whenever there is a contract to come to an end, there will have to be transitional arrangements in place, and that your obligation will be to have a very careful oversight so that there is no last-minute decisions that ultimately come back to haunt the department. That's just as a matter of principle in general. Let's forget about the personalities involved.
I hope, Honorable Hon, you are not suggesting micromanagement, because I know you may not want that. I will definitely, from time to time, get reports. And if there is something, I will also call him to provide certain reports. There were a number of exchanges for this report and that report. And obviously, I also monitored him and so forth. But also, when he thinks that there is something he may want to report, he will report and all that.
Okay. And then my final question, and I don't know whether, I must look towards you because obviously it's not fair to ask the new National Commissioner. But are you aware or were you made aware that the visit to the Mangaung Centre on the very last day of Mr. Fraser's service was necessitated by complaints from Group 4 Security that the then controllers were overreaching and issuing too many violation notices, and that they really should be moved in order to restore our harmonious relationship?
No, I'm not aware of that.
And will you be able to find out?
Yeah, you can get the report.
Thank you.
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you very much.